Hello, welcome back to the channel. So let's do one more question, an interesting question on area between two curves. And in this question, you'll realize that when you have complex functions, you don't have to always sketch the graph of your functions given in the question. So in this question, you have to calculate the area between the curves y equals x times square root 25 minus x square and y equals 3x on the interval x equals 0 to x equals 4, both included in this case. So now at first sight, the sketch of this function may seem intimidating, right? Because this is clearly not a function we are familiar with. So in this question, you'll notice that even though you don't know the sketch of this function, you will be able to solve the whole question without drawing the sketch of both of these functions on the graph. And the way to do that is, we'll use some very simple concepts, very simple mathematical concepts in order to calculate the area in this case, or the definite integral in this case. So first of all, in order to solve this question, we know that whenever we have curves represented in the form of y equals fx, we always take the height of a vertical strips, right? We take an arbitrary vertical strip and calculate the height of that strip based on the functions given. So I'll assume that in this case, since we always take the difference of both of these functions based on the upper y value and the lower y value, I'll assume that my function, the height of my vertical arbitrary strip, let's assume that it's x times 25 minus x square minus 3x in this case, right? So let's assume that our upper y value is this one and the lower y value is this one, and we'll check whether it's true based on the given interval in this case. And also, we know that when we are taking this height, since this upper value should be greater than equal to the lower value, so this height should be greater than equal to 0, right? We know a fact that when we are taking this height, this height should be greater than equal to 0 based on our interval given, right? So this is an important point that we have to consider. So now we know that our height has to be greater than 0. So if we equate this equation, x times 25 minus x square minus 3x greater than equal to 0, if those x values that we'll get from this inequality will also lie in this interval, this will give us an idea that our assumption was indeed correct. But if it's the opposite case, that by solving this inequality, we'll get our x values which will lie outside this interval, this will give us an idea that our assumption was indeed incorrect, and we'll have to flip our functions in order to account for our height to be always greater than equal to 0. Don't worry, we'll solve this question and realize this concept later on in the video. So in this case, I can take the x out, right? So x can be taken out. This would become root 25 minus x square minus 3 greater than equal to 0. And now, since our x is always greater than equal to 0, right? So this is always greater than equal to 0, right? But for the whole expression to be greater than equal to 0, since this is greater than equal to 0, this has to be greater than equal to 0, right? Because we know that when we have a positive term and we are multiplying it with the positive term, we'll get a positive term, right? So that is why we know for sure that this x is greater than equal to 0. So this expression over here should also be greater than equal to 0 if we want our whole expression to be greater than equal to 0. I hope that makes sense. Feel free to comment down in this video if you have any doubts based on this concept. So now, since we know that this expression is greater than 0, let's make this expression greater than 0 and solve for the x values in this case. So now, based on this, our square root 25 minus x square minus 3 should be greater than 0 as well, right? Greater than equal to 0 as well. So I can shift the 3 to the other side. It would become root 25 minus x square greater than equal to 3. By squaring both sides, I'll get 25 minus x square greater than equal to 9. So I'll take the 9 over to this side and x square to the opposite side. It would be 25 minus 9 greater than equal to x square, right? Which is 16 is greater than equal to x square. Let's represent this equation in a familiar form. This is basically the same as writing x square is less than equal to 16, right? And if our x square, we can write x square less than equal to 16 as x square less than equal to 4 square, right? And we also know that if we solve this inequality, we'll get x is less than equal to 4, greater than equal to minus 4 in this case. And you'll clearly notice in this case that by solving this inequality for our height to be greater than 0, this expression is greater than equal to 0 when your x lies between minus 4 and 4. And you also know that your interval is from 0 to 4. So that is why it gives us a confirmation that our assumption was indeed correct. Based on our interval from x equals 0 to x equals 4, this y value is greater than this y value, so that it makes our height to be greater than equal to 0 in this case. Also, feel free to comment down if you still have any doubts in this part, and I would be happy to answer your doubts as well. So now, the most important part in this question was to check if your assumption of height is correct or not, and that we have already checked. So our height of a vertical strip is definitely this one based on the x values that we got by solving this inequality. So now the rest process is pretty simple, right? Since we know that this height is always greater than equal to 0 based on our interval, we don't have any breakpoints, right? Because for all the x values, our y value of this function is always greater than the y value of this function. So that is why, while solving for the area, our area would be, which we can represent as a, this would be from x equals 0 to x equals 4. The height of a vertical strip is x times root 25 minus x square minus 3x, and with a dx in this case. So the same as this height multiplied by dx. And in order to solve this definite integral, I'll leave the definite integral calculation to you, but if you want a hint in order to solve this question, you can split this interval as 0 to 4 x times 25 minus x square dx plus minus 0 to 4 3x dx in this case, right? And this part can be solved by substitution, and this part you can solve it very easily by taking the integral of x in this case, right? So that's it for this video. In this video, we realized that we don't have to always calculate the height of a vertical strips based on sketching the graph of these functions. If it's easier for you to solve this inequality, you can always go with solving this inequality and solving for the area by the inequality calculation. So feel free to comment down in this video if you have any doubts. Follow the channel in order to get notified about the other videos that I'll be uploading. Stay tuned. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye. Take care.